Okay, so the very first song in the very first pool was Handroid at 120% speed. And the way I'm going to start each one of these videos, I'm going to do it in three parts. I'm going to be going through the path first, and I'm not going to be talking about how to hit notes or anything unless it really applies. And then the second part, I'm going to show any methods I use to stay consistent, that sort of thing. And then the third part is going to be an ideal run of the song using the paths I did. So I'll FC the song on video with a decent path, and this would mirror what I would be trying to do in the tournament. I'm not going to do anything I didn't do in the tournament. So, with that being said, let's start off with Path for Handroid 120. Now, the Handroid is a song of two halves. It's kind of tricky, it's pretty awkward all the way through. A lot of people struggle with this song, but the good thing about it is the path is pretty easy overall. So the very first activation is actually a tilt activation. So there aren't that many tilt. There are some tilt activations in the tournament songs, but not too many. So it's a bit strange that the very first act, for me at least, was a tilt act. You see, it comes immediately following this long green-yellow sustain that you want to whammy as much as possible. And yeah, immediately you act on this orange note, just strum note. So I tilted. I don't think you actually have to tilt. Well, obviously you don't have to tilt, but you don't have to activate on this orange because it's all just 16ths all the way through. As long as you don't overlap this next phrase, you can do whatever you want. But I just chose to keep it as the path said and activate it on the orange with a tilt act. So yeah, tilting while strumming, not that easy, but I can get the gist of it down. And yeah, so that's the first activation. It's easy to remember at least. Immediate act. The second act, it's another 2. You get 2 star bar, so it's half bar. Now it all looks very similar, but the way I remembered it at least, I didn't activate on this green here. So a lot of the time I would sacrifice maybe like 200 points for the sake of having an obvious activation point. And so with this one, I activate on this orange here, which is the start of a measure. It's the last measure before it goes in this part with the quicker zigzags. So as soon as we got to what was essentially like the last measure of the second cycle of this part, activate on this orange here, which is the last measure. And the reason you don't want to act before then is because you get extra points with these zigzags, because the step changes to I guess 16th triplets for a bar every now and then. And if you act on the orange, there's no danger of overlap at all, so there's no problem there. So yeah, after that it's 2 and an immediate act, so this is very easy. The only thing you would need to worry about is squeezing, and yeah, there's really nothing to say. As soon as you get the star power on the green, it's the start of a measure, boom, activate straight away. You could do it a bit later if you wanted to, as long as you do it activate before you end up getting this green sustain, because then you're missing out on a potential squeeze. So after that, I think there's only one more activation in the song, and it is what, 3? Yeah, it's 3, and it's right at the end of the song. So after this green sustain, you get this triplet part, and you can see it's telling me here to activate on the yellow. I would obviously activate like I did earlier in the song to make sure I knew what I was doing. I activated on the blue. So yeah, sacrificing 200 points again, just to make sure I get it right. It's a lot more natural to activate on that peak of a triplet as well. So yeah, it's the third measure of the, I would call it the outro. So bump, you activate on the blue, and then that's it. Try and squeeze in this last chord as well, because you get an extra 300 points. Or 300, yeah, extra 600 points. You get a decent amount of points if you squeeze that chord in. And so yeah, that's the path of Handroid. It's pretty easy. There's 4 activations, sorry. None of them are particularly hard. The hardest one would probably be this tilt act and remembering exactly where to do the second act, because this whole cluster of notes, a lot of it is pretty similar. But you know, with a couple of tries, you'll get it down. I don't know why I'm giving advice as if the tournament's still going on, but I guess that's just the way I speak sometimes. But anyway, yeah, that's the path for Handroid. That's how I did it and how I learned it. And you get You see optimal there, I think it's saying 433. I think I was getting about 432 pretty regularly. So yeah, only about a K off optimal with a couple of sacrifices. You know, your opponent is gonna have to FC. Like if you FC, they'll have to FC with an extra squeeze, pretty much. But yeah, that's that. Now we'll go into probably the more interesting part, which is actually figuring out exactly what to do with some of these open notes, and we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the actual notes themselves. Now, with most songs I wouldn't be going through every section, but with this one it's probably worthwhile to go through at least the majority of them, because there's a few different things I do at least to stay consistent here, and there is a decent amount of variation with everything that comes up, so hopefully I don't forget anything. One thing I will skip is the intro, because it's not hard, and then I'm just going to select everything, and I'll just explain. So this is immediately after strumming. Now I think a lot of people will probably one-hand this, but for me, after one-handing the first couple, because it comes out of strumming, I just immediately tap, and just tap the very top notes. It's something I always say, just tap the highest note. One thing I do is stay in first position while tapping this stuff though, because it makes this transition down a lot easier. But I will shift up to second position for that last bit, because as you see I stopped tapping right at the end of it, because we need to transition into the main verse. Or I would consider it the main verse. This part is just sort of just there. Well, I wouldn't actually do it that easy. After this last double orange tap, so yeah, and we start one-handing. Right. Oh, so that's, you know, it's not too bad. People wouldn't struggle with that bit generally, but then you get to the most difficult part of the song is this first 1C, 1D. There's not really much you can learn here. See, I think I and pretty much everyone else would have one-handed this bit. One thing I will say is that you should definitely strum the double greens. And you have to strum the double greens. I don't know how you would tap the double greens. That seems very convoluted. But yeah, I guess the way I try to do it, you know, just look at the first couple of notes after the open note. So I think in this case it goes yellow, blue, then something else. You can see that. So I'd focus on, I think it goes yellow, blue, green, orange. So I'd focus on those notes in particular. And once you get that, you can get your groove back after the open note straight away. So, and also for this second part, staying in first position, which might sound counterintuitive, does seem to help a lot. So yeah, this one, it really comes with repetition, just playing it a lot, but not too much either. And then this is similar. The same pattern with the yellow, blue, green, orange comes up again, following the open note, but before that it's a bit strange. It's like a weird rhythm. But just look at it, really. Stay in first position, missing note. And then this part is actually pretty fine if you just pay attention where the open notes are. It's just one-handing material. Yeah, so that's how it goes, really. One thing I will say before moving on is after this red, yellow, orange triplet, and then it goes back down to green. When you hit the green, you want to be in first position, so you can do this triplet down straight away. That makes the transition to that a lot easier, rather than doing a slide or something. I don't know why. I think you'd automatically be there, but just in case you weren't for some reason. Well, that's the first one. It's the hardest part of the song. It's also hard to really learn anything that doesn't come naturally with this. There's probably something you could do with tapping, but then it makes the double greens really annoying, so you sort of have to one-hand this thing. Luckily, after this, it's not too bad. The rest of the song is okay. I think this... not pre-chorus, we just went through that. Chorus. One-handed. You might think, well, why would you one-hand this bit when you tap the earlier bit? And I don't really know. It's just sort of preference. It makes it easy with the open notes. For me. You choose whatever position you want. I don't generally slide, but immediately after that green sustain, obviously one-hand the first couple things with this, because you're immediately coming after. But then I'd tap this as well, just because these double tap things, it just makes them so much more consistent. There's just no chance you'll miss. And also I forgot to do it there, but you should switch the first position to that second one to make the transition down easier. And then we get this part, which also looks a bit weird. So that would be... yeah. Bridge B to bridge C. So we're tapping along here. It's kind of a quick transition from tapping and one-handing. But this part, just one hand. That's all I have to say, really. We'll take a little bit more of a look. So it immediately starts with these double greens. But it's a lot easier than the first verse. And then we get the chorus again, which is the same. And then after the chorus we have the outro. One hand this. That's no. Yeah, that is the act where I noted that. So that measures the act. And then I would start tapping, because obviously you're not going to be tapping when you do an activation. I kind of didn't know... I still don't really know exactly what the perfect way is to do coming out with that orange sustain. You could one-hand it there, but there's a double orange thing immediately following an orange sustain, which could be, I don't know, maybe a little confusing. So I just generally let go of the orange and did a double tap. It's probably not ideal, but this is what I did. Just mess it up. That quad in there isn't really bad if you just remember it's there. And see, that's the risk with doing that. So there is a better method, but this is what I did. For some reason, I'm missing it now. And also tap the red at the bottom, just because it looks like a trail. Anything that looks like a trail, I normally try and tap. But yeah, that's the gist of the notes for this song anyway. So now I will do a run and hopefully get like 432k, and this is what I would be looking to get in the tournament. There you go, 432k. So this is exactly what we'd be looking for in the tournament. I think I squeezed the last note in as well. But yeah, so that's episode 1. Hopefully it was good. I mean, if it wasn't, let me know and tell me what needs to be changed. Unfortunately, I can't really make the hands cam any better or the frame rate any better or whatever. But besides that, yeah, next song is, I believe, Sinner's Swing. So we'll get to that.